I started getting in trouble at a young age, making bad decisions, hanging out with the wrong people, was in and out of, programs and foster homes and jails and institutions and things like that. Substance abuse was a big problem for me too.
You got your dad killed at 12 years, if I'm not wrong, and the parents split up and everything happened, and I guess that is something that affected you somehow, and then you continued down this path. What was the change? You mentioned that you decided to change as well. So how did you come to that conclusion?
Just getting around a different group of people, man. I mean, they say, show me your 5 best friends, and that's who you are, basically. But that's just what it was. Once I got around different people, I started feeling silly. Like, the way that I thought, I was like, wow, no wonder I'm here in this position. No wonder I'm stuck. If I was thinking like these guys, I could be a lot further in life.
And how did you end up meeting such people? Because most people, like, if I am doing drugs and everything, I personally feel that I will have low self-confidence and I will hesitate in reaching out to people like that.
Really, it started with the owner of the company, and again, he came from a similar background as me, and he had changed his life, and we have a lot in common as far as our drive. That's the best way I can put it. Once we set our mind on something, if anything or anyone tries to get in front of that or take that from us or stop us, it just makes us want it more. If you're really trying to help your client, even if you are just a roofer, still start on the ground and look at everything. Even if you're just a roofer, because if you document these things, you're putting more on the table for them, which in turn could go back towards their roof or just back towards their property. I mean, you're helping them at the end of the day, and a lot of the time they're gonna take that and they're gonna give back to you with their business, And
the way you tell a story or how good you tell a story is directly proportional to the outcome or how positive of the outcome that you are gonna get. So where did you learn that from?
All right, so I think, Muhammad, to answer your question, as far as being a storyteller, I think that I just was naturally a storyteller. I think as a kid, I naturally had the gift of gab. I think some people have that, and I think the ones of us that have it, we don't perfect it until later in life, and I'm still tweaking things. I'm still learning as a salesman how to be better. But
like, how can a roofer make a roof inspection a beautiful story for the homeowner?
So if you're not just good at telling stories, my best advice on how to tell a story to sell something is to do a video. You can even be dry. I've showed a couple guys that don't talk real smooth when they're on camera how to do this, and they still make a video and they put it out there and they kill it. Even though
you were a kid that grew without a father. Now there are a lot of kids out there, or a lot of young men in roofing or women, they don't have a father too, and they might be making decisions that they shouldn't be making. But you have made those decisions already, and now you have the experience and you have the leverage as well. So what are the learnings that you have that you now want to pass on to the next generation or to the people who are exactly in your shoes as a child?
For me, I would say one major thing that I learned going through the motions, from a young person, early, young adult to where I'm at now, is you should always operate on intellect over emotion.
Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Roofing Millionaires podcast, the only roofing podcast where we don't promote anyone and we don't sell you anything. In this episode, we are sitting down with Michael Cullinan from Elite Roof Pros in Arkansas, and Michael shares how he completely transformed his life after his father got killed by surrounding himself with the right people and having the right guidance. Not only this, we also talked about the value of storytelling in roofing and how learning storytelling can completely transform the way you deal with the homeowners and insurance. Do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want us to bring more roofing experts like this on the show who can share their inspiring stories and help you learn new things at the same time as well. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Roofing Millionaires podcast, Michael. It's great to have you on the show today. How are you feeling and what's going on in your inner world and outer world?
Man, I'm glad to be here, Muhammad. Thank you for having me. I'm feeling blessed, man. Super blessed. Being in this industry for me has been nothing but blessings. So getting to take care of people, and then what I get to get back in return for that is just unbelievable.
Yeah. I agree.
Cool.
So what is your background story like? How did you become the roof genie?
All right, I'll try to make it a quick summary. For me, I came from kind of a broken home as a child. When I was probably 9 or 10, my parents split up. There's a lot of substance abuse and things like that in my family. My dad was killed in 2005 when I was like 12 years old. So I grew up with a mom that, she was a great mom. I'm not knocking my mom. I never would knock my mom. She's an angel. But, she was lost. She didn't really know how to handle everything. And she did the best she could with what she had. And so for me, I started getting in trouble at a young age, making bad decisions, hanging out with the wrong people, was in and out of, programs and foster homes and jails and institutions and things like that. Substance abuse was a big problem for me too. I drank a lot, did drugs, all those things that I shouldn't be doing. And then when I was about 20, I had a kid. I was still in trouble. That was my first kid, and I was still, on the fence. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And then I found roofing. Actually, he's not really my buddy anymore, but it was one of my buddies, man, back in the day. And he had some substance abuse problems too. It's funny, but he was a roofer. And so he asked me to come work with him one day on the crew. And this is where I kind of found roofing. Oh man, it's not easy work, but I did labor work at first. That's kind of how I got into the industry. And then, that kind of gave me a little bit more discipline, but I was still living that wild, rowdy life. And then I found Elite Exteriors, which is the company that I've been with now for a little over 10 years. This will be like my 11th year. So with Elite, man, kind of similar thing. The owner had came from a background like me. He didn't have the best upbringing, but he had found a way to change his life and take care of people and give back and, reap what he sows through that. And so I just kind of stuck around, man. Before long, I was drinking the coffee and, living the same life. So that's kind of what for me, it was, I wanted change, man. I had kids, I was tired of getting in trouble. I saw that if I could sell things, if I could go help solve problems and make money to do that, I was like, wow, that's next level, man. I mean, why would I ever keep doing what I'm doing if I can do that instead, And once I went out there, man, I had a bunch of people doubt me. The beginning was rocky. It wasn't easy. My first few jobs, I think it took me a while to get paid, but once I started getting paid, man, it was on and popping. I never looked back. I just kept selling and selling and selling, and now I do commercial roofing and everything in between. So
amazing. And what is your role at Elite Exteriors right now?
I'm a senior project manager, so you could say salesman, but I really do a little bit more than a typical salesman because I've been around for so long. The way that we look at it is a 3-phase thing. It's not just selling the job, it's sell, build, collect. So, to get paid at our company in full, you have to be able to do the whole thing. You have to be able to play the whole part. So you have to be able to take it from start to finish. And if someone else has to do your part for you or a piece of your work, then they get a piece of the money. So it was kind of like a dog eat dog world, and that's how we operate. As we've grown, we started trying to pour into people more, obviously. But we still want to keep that kind of instilled. It's not just something where you come and get free money. You have to definitely be able to perform and take care of your clients. Answer the phone. That's a big part of it, is answering the phone when your customers call. A lot of guys want to sell and then not ever answer the phone again.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yes. And
Yeah.
I think that the owner of Elite Exterior would be a better person if I ask questions specifically about the company. But in case of you, if I ask questions about your life, so someone exactly in your shoes can learn from you, and maybe the stuff that took years for you, he or she can pick that lesson and apply it into their life. I think that can be life-changing for even one life out there. Our job will be done, and this will be the job or role of this conversation. I think so. So you just mentioned that you got your dad killed at 12 years, if I'm not wrong, and the parents split up and everything happened. And I guess that is something that affected you somehow, and then you continued down this path. What was the change? You mentioned that you decided to change as well. So how did you come to that conclusion?
Man, honestly, I don't know. For me, it was kind of like a light went off. It was like one day I was okay with living that crazy life and being in trouble, and it was normal to me. And the next day, I think what happened was, to be honest, they say if you want to be a millionaire, sit at the table with the millionaires, right? So I think for me, I started changing my environment first. I started hanging out with people that were doing the right shit. Excuse my language. People that were doing the right thing is what it was first off for me. I started hanging out with guys that had that success mindset, that did successful things, that had positive attitudes, positive feedback, guidance. They wanted to help you. instead of people that I was hanging out with before, which didn't care. You know what I'm saying? And I think that was a big part of it, was seeing how the lives are different with the people that are successful. And it's not that these people that are unsuccessful can't do it. It's that they choose not to, right? So just getting around a different group of people, man. I mean, they say, show me your 5 best friends, and that's who you are, basically. So I think just changing my people, places, and things. I know that sounds cliche as can be, man. That's super cliche. But that's just what it was. Once I got around different people, I started feeling silly. Like the way that I thought, I was like, wow, no wonder I'm here in this position. No wonder I'm stuck. If I was thinking like these guys, I could be a lot further in life,
And I think that most people think that the rich guys out there or millionaires, they don't care about you. But I personally believe that they do care about you, and they are more caring towards you if they know that you have that drive and you have that hunger to grow. How did you get that self-confidence that you have to change your circle, and how did those people allowed you maybe to have you with them?
So, I mean, really, it started with the owner of the company, and again, he came from a similar background as me, and he had changed his life, and we have a lot in common as far as our drive. That's the best way I can put it. Once we set our mind on something, if anything or anyone tries to get in front of that or take that from us or stop us, it just makes us want it more. So that's just something I naturally have had in me. I just had to switch my sights to what I was focused on, and that was the problem, is I was focused on the wrong stuff. But once I got in and got around him, started listening to the things they talked about, some of the numbers, understanding roofing more, and like the problem solving side of it, to me, it not only was the getting out there and meeting people, I got to meet him, but then getting to know him, he had a bunch of successful people in the industry around him that had similar backgrounds. Some of them had totally different some of them had come from 3-4 generations of roofing company owners. Some of them came from the dumps like we did. Some of them came from successful lawyers and doctor backgrounds, and they got into roofing somehow, and they're all good people, but for me, I like to take something from everybody around me. I like to I've always been humble and try to show humility in that fact and sense, is to say, I can learn something from everybody, right? Even the guy that is broke, I can learn something from him. I don't want to do what he's doing, right? I don't want to be there. So I can remember, hey, I remember what it felt like to be there. And I definitely don't want to do whatever he's doing right now that's putting him in that position. I want to keep going on the trail I'm on, and I want to keep chasing new goals. But once you get around 1 or 2 of them, they've got friends and they've got friends. And before long, I mean, as long as you stay in the environment, for me, it was staying late, man. A lot of it was like hanging out, doing extra stuff that I didn't get paid to do. I would hang out with them. I would go tarp roofs. I would go try to take care of their customers. I would try to just be involved, and through that, we built a relationship. They trusted me more. They saw the hustle in me and the drive. And so then they were willing to give back to me more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think that's the best way I can put it.
And I feel that I agree with you. And like if you have one people, it is just like a chain, and the chain reaction starts once you have someone who is pushing you and they have people around you. And I think that is something that I can relate to, because I had my mentor. He just by being with him and just by having him present around me, I somehow changed. And I don't know, like he didn't even teach me a single thing. I think that people have that power. They can change you if you have the hunger.
Yes, like the owner of our company, man, I'll tell you, like he's done so much for me, but nothing at the same time, if that makes sense. Just like what you said. It's like he was there and he'd always listen to me, he'd always talk to me, but sometimes he didn't even have the answer. Sometimes just having somebody who was on the same path as me, who was trying to achieve the same greatness and the same type of high spirit as me, is what got me in a better place. I don't know how else to put it. It's just, surrounding yourself with that positivity. And we don't always have to know everything. Our mentors don't always know everything. Sometimes I teach him stuff. You know what I'm saying? But through just the growth here, that's the main thing I've gotten, is the growth, man. And it's a spiritual journey, and to be able to grow and become more of a man every single day, and look out for more people and try to give back. And that's what I see him do. A big part of it is I've seen him as a millionaire, give back to the community, like pick up homeless people, take them out to eat, buy them clothes. I mean, all those type of things really add up, and when you're able to do that, it makes you feel good. So then your vibration is just up, through
Yes,
that you
and
win, man.
Yes, and you're right that a master might not know everything. And what I believe is that a grandmaster or a mentor or a true guide just lights that fire in you. Even if he does not know all the answers, he just lights that fire in your heart that you now want to know all the answers and you know that you have to do something. He just gives you the direction, maybe.
Yes, 100%. The direction and motivation, just a lot of the time, just motivation, man. There's been times where my mentor, like I said, didn't know the answer, but just the motivational words he had pushed me a little further, and then I ended up hitting my goal or exceeding it, you know? So it's definitely a very important thing to surround yourself with positive people that have the same type of desire as far as want success. Because I always wanted success, man, but I didn't always surround myself with those same like-minded people, you know, and that was a big part of my downfall back then.
Okay, and looking back, like when you are changing, like if you look back at yesterday or maybe the day before yesterday, you won't find many things changing. But if you look 1 year back, you will find that a lot of things have changed. Or 5 years back, a lot of things have changed. When you were going through that transition, I feel that day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, you would not be feeling many changes because you are just in that routine. But looking back at that time now, what do you feel? How things have changed?
Man, that's a great question because that's very deep. That's a very deep question because a lot has changed. You know, back in the beginning, I was just so green, man. It's like sometimes, you know, they say ignorance is bliss. You know, I feel like back then, you know, sales was different. The economy was different. The economy was like majorly different. Interest rates were lower, gas prices were lower, material costs was less, labor was less. So I could say, you know, that was a big difference, but also just kind of being a newer greenhorn who had that excitement, you know, that was like just ready to learn whatever. And I hadn't really been burned yet by people. I had in the previous life, but as far as construction, I never had a customer not pay me or, you know, all the little burdens that come with it. So I was just fired up and ready to go, man. I went and got my first sale, and I honestly, it was a retail sale, and it was like, I didn't even know how I got it. I had someone else help me sell it, but I just realized quickly then how easy it was to just go help people and make a change and make money. And so that spark lit in me. And, you know, I would say over time, my excitement is different about it. You know, back then I would get more excited just to go sell something, like in general. Like I just was fired up to sell, you know, and it's like, just sell it all, sell whatever, just sell it, sell it, sell it. But now, you know, as a more experienced contractor, I'm a lot more slow and hesitant to just sell anybody anything. A big part of what I've learned is vetting my people, because with Elite Exteriors and with the owner of my company, man, I've took some big losses over the years because of, you know, just the moving too fast on things, selling more than we could handle, you know, things like that, or selling jobs that just weren't really worth it, just trying to get the deal. So that was a big thing I've had to learn, is when to turn a client down. You know, that's one thing that's changed for me, is I turn a lot more people down now than I used to. I don't get quite as excited about the sell anymore because I also know, you know, it is fun to me. I still get a rush off the sell, especially, you know, bigger deals or the tougher negotiations. But I don't get the same type of excitement off the sale. I more so get excited when it all works out and we're collecting the checks, you know. That's a little different. I used to get a little bit more excited about the front end part. Now I'm more excited about the back end part. But a big part of what's changed, man, is just my lifestyle. You know, before, I mean, when I got into this business, I was driving a freaking Lincoln Town Car, an old Lincoln Town Car, man. Imagine a roofer driving an old Lincoln Town Car, pulling up to your house, selling you roofs out of a Lincoln Town Car. That's pretty crazy, huh? And then, you know, it was a Tahoe. Then my mentor's pushing me, man, dude. Then, I mean, I think me and my wife got a 2019 Camaro. Then we ended up having another baby. We're like, we can't even have this car. He's like, dude, you can afford a race car. Go get you a damn truck, man. Get you a truck. He kept pushing me, get you a truck. I finally got my first truck, and then 6 months later traded it in for a newer truck. So it was just like, you know, my lifestyle has just steadily just changed. Now I've got a truck, I've got a boat, Denali, you know, I drive a race car to my appointments a lot of the time. You know, we wear Rolexes and Breitlings, and before I was wearing, I mean, my most expensive watch before was a Citizen, you know? So the lifestyle has definitely changed, and people could take that how they want to, you know? I think it just comes from us helping a lot of people. That's why we're successful. And I'm on the inside of it. Some people are like, oh, he wears Rolexes, he's screwing people over. But they don't know how many people I had to help to get the Rolexes. You know what I mean? That's selling millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of jobs. So the lifestyle's changed, man. I think that like my heart's changed. I've definitely grown a little bit more. Like I said, I'm more hesitant to people, but I also am a lot more mature. So I read people a lot differently now. And I can kind of sense if somebody's trying to scheme, because you know, in this business, man, there's a lot of money on the table, so people will try to screw you over. So that's one thing that's changed. I'm a lot more wise when it comes to those type of decisions.
Beautiful. And I think that a lot of these things are what you learn with time. And I had Claudio in my last episode of this podcast, and the guest shared something with me. He told me that if you cannot make money, good money, if you are not delivering value. So if someone comes to you, and even if he has Rolex on his wrist, he is driving a sports car, and if he has good money, then there is no way that person isn't delivering value. He is delivering value. That's why he has the money. The other thing that I liked about what you said is that you mentioned that now you have realized that you have to say no to a lot of people. And I think that it comes when you have boundaries. Like if you don't have any boundaries, you will accept any deal, you will work with anyone. But if you have defined boundaries at a specific time, you will realize that these are not the people I am supposed to work with.
Right. And then I want to hit on that a little further, Muhammad, because the boundaries
Yes.
thing is fantastic. That is amazing. Just having boundaries, period, in life. Because again, going back to my previous life, man, that was a big part of my problem. I didn't have those boundaries. You know, I would let people into my life that shouldn't be in my life. They would drag me down further and further. And I'm not blaming them. It was my fault for allowing it. You know, I didn't have boundaries. Now those boundaries and those guidelines, you know, they say cleanliness is godliness. And I know I've got clothes and I've got bags and stuff everywhere right now. We're packing, we're getting ready to go. But cleanliness is godliness, man. Having an organization that's organized and smooth and efficient, you know, every little thing you do rubs off in your life. And it goes right back to that too. If you don't have boundaries in your sales process, you probably don't have boundaries in your regular life, you know, and it can negatively affect you in many ways. You know, if I'm disorganized at home, when I get in my car to go meet somebody, I'm more than likely disorganized, and vice versa. You know, if I'm disorganized in my sales process or I don't have boundaries in my sales process, I more than likely am slipping in my personal life on my boundaries or my organization as well. You know, I think everything I do kind of ties together. So as a professional, I try to always maintain, you know, those boundaries in my sales process, other business relationships, friends and family, you know, my own personal boundaries. I have boundaries for myself too, you know. So I'm glad that you brought up the boundaries. That's a really big deal. You know.
Yes, and just when you were speaking, that what I got from you is that a lot of things that you have around you reflect that what kind of person you are inside. And I will share two things here. Like the first thing is that I learned from my mentor that if someone has a messy surrounding, like people are giving you signals all the time. They are giving you signals, and if you become a good receiver, and that happens with time, if you become a good receiver of these signals that people are giving you, just like you said, that you become really great at identifying people. And the second thing is that if someone has a messy surrounding, and if they have like a dirty car or their room is messy, all of these things are signals too. And if someone is cheating their spouse, and how wouldn't you expect them to cheat their team members or their company owner or someone? So I think that a lot of these things are signals, and that this realization comes with time too.
Yes, 100%. 100% agree with you.
Okay, so okay, now I can see you again. So you just transitioned from that life to this roofing life, and by looking at your posts, I see everywhere that you mention about problem solving. And like I was looking at your profile, and on Instagram, almost every other post is related to problem solving. So I think that is a really big part of your story, that now you have learned that if someone has pain, you have to relieve that pain. And that brings me to another thing that you also mentioned in your profile, that you like almost 90% of unapproved claims that come to you, you just make them approved, and like 20 grand plus. So how do you do that? Like that was something really that caught my attention.
So I did back when I first started selling roofs and construction projects, I got very passionate about insurance restoration. I'm pretty tight with a few big people in the industry that feel the same way about it, and it's not that, we're trying to ream the insurance company. It's that we're trying to make sure that nothing's left off the table, right? So when it comes down to a catastrophic storm or a catastrophic loss on someone's property, a lot of things get overlooked. There's staffed adjusters who come in and they're trying to minimize stuff. You have, a CAD adjusters who come in that are third parties hired who are just there to try to fill in the blanks, and they're trying to do the best they can, but they're in and out, man. They might be in town for 2 days and then gone and they don't ever see the job again. Whereas I spend hours on these projects. I spend hours with these clients, listening to the problems and the things that they noticed since the storm, or the things that I just uncovered while going through the property with the fine comb. And what I do is I don't just go straight to the roof. And that's a big thing I talk about when I'm telling other newer guys getting into insurance restoration. If you're really trying to help your client, even if you are just a roofer, still start on the ground and look at everything. Even if you're just a roofer, because if you document these things, you're putting more on the table for them, which in turn could go back towards their roof or just back towards their property. I mean, you're helping them at the end of the day, and a lot of the time they're gonna take that and they're gonna give back to you with their business, And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they take advantage of you, but that's just part of it. So as far as the way I do it, though, I go starting on the ground. I make a circle around the house, and I'm gonna just take pictures on my first round. I'm gonna take a picture of the front of the building, or house or property, whatever it is, with negative space on both sides. I'm going to go to the corners. I'm going to go to the sides, back. I'm just going to make my way around. Once I get done with that, I'm going up close on the front. Now I'm going to look at the front door. I'm going to look at siding, window trim, gutters. I'm looking at every single part and component of their home, and I'm documenting every single little thing. If along the way I see broken bird houses, these are all little things that are personal property that add up too, and it's not necessarily something that I get paid to do, but I'm uncovering the story. I'm putting it together like a detective, right? Forensic analysis. We're putting it all together and we're making it all make sense. So if I just go straight to the roof and I'm like, hey, this roof smoked. Well, yeah, if it's a major storm, you might just have that. But if you got a ghost storm or an older storm or a smaller storm, or, or you're in an area that was on the line of the storm, like moderate damage, damage is damage. So these people are affected too. And at that point, you need to have more on the file so that you can make this story make as much sense as possible when you're telling it to the insurance company. Because in court, whoever wins is the person that tells the best story. Same thing with the insurance company. If they can tell the story better and they can twist the verbiage and use the policy against the policyholder, that's what they're going to do. And it's not my business to talk about the policy necessarily, but I am going to educate my homeowner and I'm going to let them talk about their policy. That's a big deal, getting the homeowner involved or the property owner. So I can't act as an adjuster because I'm not an adjuster, but they can act as a policy holder. They can talk about their policy all day long and not get in trouble for it because it's their policy, right? So I get them 100% involved. I educate them. I have other people educate them that are adjusters or whatever I need to do to get that concept in their mind and help them through the process. And then I keep the communication really tight. So every email I CC the homeowner in or the property owner, I make sure that they're communicating with the insurance company too. That way we're not divided, because that's what the insurance company will do too. They'll try to divide you and the property owner to conquer you. So as long as we're tight and the homeowner or the property owner is on the same page as me and they understand, that's a big part of it, is making sure they understand everything. If they don't understand all the line items and your estimate, it's harder for them to fight with you. If they understand every single thing that you're trying to do for them and understand that this is value you're trying to bring back to their home, and if they understand what is and isn't fraud, and they understand what their responsibility is and what's not, all these things need to be addressed in the insurance process. And that through that is how I'm able to take denied claims and get them approved, or take minimized claims and get them maximized, is by creating an understanding. I create an understanding with the property owner and the adjuster, make them both understand what's going on. Hopefully that wasn't too much.
Bravo. And no, I think that was required for me to ask the next question, that I really liked that storytelling part that you shared, because a lot of roofers or even many people in business, they don't look at things like that. So because like the way you tell a story or how good you tell a story is directly proportional to the outcome or how positive of the outcome that you are going to get. So where did you learn that from? Yes, I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
You see me now?
Okay, now I can see you.
All right, so I think, Muhammad, to answer your question, as far as being a storyteller, I think that I just was naturally a storyteller. I think as a kid, I naturally had the gift of gab. You know, I think some people have that, and I think the ones of us that have it, we don't perfect it until later in life. And I'm still tweaking things, you know, I'm still learning as a salesman how to be better. But I think I naturally had the storytelling ability, you know, and it was something I always took pride in. Even as a kid, man, I had friends that I would just mess with, and I would just tell them these off the wall stories just to shake them up, and then tell them I was joking after, and they'd be like mind blown, you know, and it was just something we'd do. It was fun. I did it to my mom. I'd give my mom hell all the time. Cause again, you know, my dad was gone at a young age. So my mom and me had to be pretty tight, and I like to keep the positive vibes. So even though I was in trouble a lot and all that, I still always had kind of a jokester attitude, and I still played pranks on the family and stuff, you know, and to do that, you have to be able to kind of tell the story. So it's always been just a natural ability. And I did learn early in sales that if you can tell stories, you will be able to sell way better. You know, when you can tell stories, it makes people relate. It makes them emotional. That's a big thing, you know, because people buy off emotion and they back it up with logic. So if I can make someone feel something, and it's not always just trying to make them feel it, it's being real. It's like, hey, I'm going to really tell you where I really came from. I'm going to let you get to know me. I'm going to make myself vulnerable so that you can let your guard down, you know? And once you do that and you start telling the stories and they see that you're a person and you're not a robot that's just there to take their money, they're happy to give you their money, you know, most of the time. So I just learned telling stories is a big deal. As a young person, I enjoyed it. It was fun. You know, I thought it was cool. I was never really good at telling jokes. Like, you know, I can't remember a joke. I'll twist it all up and it won't be funny. But I can tell stories. Storytelling is just important, man. It's just an important part of the sales process. You know, if you can't relate to people, you know, like there's so many people, I'll tell you, just kind of so many people that I've went to that the first thing they said to me when I got to their house was, I'm not going to buy anything today. If you're trying to sell me something, you might as well turn around, you know? And if all I was there to do was sell them something, I would have never sold them anything, you know? So what I did instead was I was agreeable. Hey, the last thing I'm going to do is ask you to buy something, you know? In fact, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to share some experience, strength, and hope with you. And you do what you want with the information, but hopefully we can have a good time while we're here together, and we can just make friends. And either way you decide today what you want to do, we're going to part friends. Because I get paid just to be here is what I tell them, you know. And at the end of the day, I do get paid just to be there. Even though I'm a commission-based salesman, I'm not lying when I tell them I get paid just to be there. Because if they don't buy something from me, like I said earlier, I still learn something from everybody. So even if they don't buy something from me, I still gain something from every single experience and every single person I meet, if that makes sense. And then I take that with me to the next one, you know?
Yes, that does make sense, and I really liked that storytelling thing, and I feel that you just answered it beautifully. I also believe that a lot of people are not naturally God gifted by this storytelling talent, and I think that like if you can just share like how can a roofer make a roof inspection a beautiful story for the homeowner or the adjuster.
So if you're not just good at telling stories, my best advice on how to tell a story to sell something is to do a video. You can even be dry. I've showed a couple guys that don't talk real smooth when they're on camera how to do this, and they still make a video and they put it out there and they kill it, even though they look silly on the camera, and they get better every time they do the video. You know, it comes with time and practice and just getting used to it. But if they just make a video of what they found, and I do the whole thing. So like if I'm trying to get something that's underpaid bought, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to start on the ground and all those things I talked about earlier, everything I inspect, I'm going to do a video of it. So, hey, I'm Michael with Elite Exteriors. I'm in front of John Scott's home over here on 123 Maple Lane in X city, X state. This is the zip code. Here's the claim number. Here's a picture of his vehicle. And I'm going to do a video. You know, I'm going to spin and show the whole neighborhood. Oh, there's a roof getting done over there from the storm. Look, man, they're roofing it today. All right, check it out. We got broken window frames here. We've got damaged window screens. Look at this right here. This dent right here in this downspout is exactly the same size as the hail was. And it came from the same wind direction. This is the front of the house. The hail came from over here in the southeast, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to take them around the house on video. And then I'm going to get up on the roof and do the same thing. Here's your soft metals. They're smacked up. Let me go ahead and put some chalk on that and show you that there's impressions left in it. And I'm going to kind of get silly on the camera too. I'm going to talk get a little wild with it just to make them feel more laid back, you know? That's all you got to do, man, really. And then get down and show it to them. Hey, look, Mr. John, whatever. I took a video of what I found on your property for you. I really thought you might want to see this. And I'm just going to play it for them, hand them the phone, and then answer questions. If they look at me during the process, I'll pause the video and talk to them about it. All right, you want to keep watching? Let's keep watching. Let's look at the next thing. I want you to see what I found next. And just roll right into it. And then I'm going to tell them little stories throughout this about other things that we've experienced in the past. Hey, whenever I saw this happen before, you know, when raccoons got in right here like this, they did a lot more damage than just to the roof. It got in the insulation, they're damaging drywall. We really need to solve this problem today so that you don't get more expenses on your list. You know, that's telling a story too, believe it or not. That's telling a story. Hey, I met Susie Joe in this other city.
Yes,
she had a raccoon issue too. Man, they didn't only tear up her roof. They got in the shingles. They got in the wood. Next thing you know, they've got babies in there tearing up the insulation. Now they're into the drywall. Now you got your leaks are causing all these problems, but you got all these other problems in the attic. They're chewing on wires up there. Now you got to get an electrician out here. That's telling the story, man, you know? And it's also creating a sense of urgency. That's another big part of it.
Yes, and it's just the art of giving information in a way that is most impactful and without being pushy. And I was gonna ask you actually that looking at you, I saw a lot of videos and posts that you did. I personally feel that the way you do inspections is quite different from others. And since your approval rate is so good, I feel that there are some factors that you do differently too. You already mentioned that the video thing, and the other thing that you mentioned is that you start from the ground. And a lot of times I feel that the stuff that we are looking for is always in front of us, but we don't have the eyes to look for it. So what makes your roof inspection different than the other roofers?
The fact that I'm looking at everything, man. And I'll even tell you this. I go as far as to, if they have attic access, every single property I look at, I ask them if I can get in their attic. Every single time. Some of them don't have attics, but there's been at least, I could tell you at least probably 100 deals I've gotten in my time because I poked my head in the attic and the other guy didn't. You know what I mean? And then also while I'm doing that, I'm finding more problems. So, hey, the roof, let's say the roof's already approved. Well, you know, it's underpaid. And I know that. I've already looked at it with them. They're getting estimates from people and they're confused because no one's took the time to make it make sense to them. All they think is they think the insurance company screw them and they think every roofer's trying to screw them. They just think they're getting screwed by everybody, right? So I'm poking my head in the attic. Hey, look, Mr. Billy, this is another thing I found up here. You don't even have plywood up here. You've got 1x8s and they've got spaces this big in between them. Whenever we remove this roof, we can't put this back without putting new plywood on here. Let's see if your insurance company will cover that. Get them on the phone. Bam. Right there from the attic, we're calling the insurance company. I'm showing them value right there without even having a signed contract. You know, I'm showing them where their money's at. Then, hey, if you want me to help you get the money, I do need you to sign right here. I can show you where your money is at without you signing, but if you want me to help you get it, I need you to sign right here. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And is there any other thing that you do differently? Because I feel that it takes some things to convert a claim for repair to convert it into a claim for reinstallation or replacing the roof.
So yeah, there is.
What are the, like, is there any experience or something? Yes.
Yeah, videos still are a big deal. Like I can show the homeowner a video to tell a story and sell them, or I can show the insurance company a video to prove irreparability. So if we have a wind damage shingle, let's say, they don't ever want to pay for full replacements on wind damage. They're going to count shingles. Oh, 1, 2, 3. All right, we got 12 shingles. That's going to be $700. Their deductible is $1,000. Here's your claim. You ain't getting nothing. Good luck. Figure it out. So with someone like that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go do a brittle test on the roof. I'm going to prove irreparability through that. If it's, if it's brittle and it cracks when I lift it or whatever, I'm going to do videos of that and document it and show them that we physically can't repair this roof. If it's a discontinued product, I'm going to go at them for that. I'm going to send a report into them from ITEL or from NTS or somebody else proving that the product is discontinued. When it comes to writing my report, I'm going to change labor codes. Are you familiar with Xactimate? So when it comes to Xactimate, every single item, every item has 2 labor codes in it. It has a tear off and a putback code. Well, Xactimate is a restoration software and it's automatically going to put every tear out in DMO labor code. But when I write my Xactimates, I'm changing my labor codes to whatever the trade is. So when I do a tear off of a roof, I go in and I manipulate that line item for the tear off price to go from DMO to RFG, which is roofing, which is what it should be in, because I'm not using a machine to tear this off. I'm going physically up there to tear this off from the roof. So I should be paid as a roofer to tear it off. So I'm changing the labor code from DMO to RFG on that. And that's going to increase my tear off price by about $50 a square right there, just alone. And I'm going to do that for every trade. So when I get to my gutters, the tear off of the gutters, I'm going to change it from DMO to SDG, which is siding. Same thing with siding, same thing with windows. I'm going to manipulate those labor codes, and then I'm going to add OMP, which is General Contractors Overhead and Profit, at the end of my report to every single report, every single item. I also add a little thing that I learned a little while back was some fuel surcharges. I'll drop that in there. That's kind of a gold nugget. Sometimes they pay for it, sometimes they don't. But I put a fuel surcharge on almost every single report, and it's just a negotiation tool. At the end of the day, even on a small job, if I have a $2,000 fuel surcharge, if the adjuster wants to trim it off, it makes them feel like they won. It makes them feel like they got a little win. And then it takes their attention off of the other things I need. They're only looking at this fuel surcharge, which I don't really need. They take that off of there and I still get what I need. And they feel like they won by taking something off. You just got to remember when you're dealing with insurance, it's all a negotiation. So you're playing chess on that. You got to be thinking about what they're going to respond, how they're going to say, what they're going to say back.
Yes, and I feel that you also have to be prepared to fight back at anything that they put in front of you, and it comes down to the information you have as well. You have shared many things that might be handy for people who are starting out and who are learning all these things. Is there anything else that you want to share with those people who are yet in their training period or who are getting onto the roofs, and some things that you do that can help them?
I got one more major thing, and if anybody ever wants to, inbox me or holler at me or whatever, feel free to. I'm always happy to talk to people and help in any situation, even video calls or whatever is cool. But one big thing that I do, and I started this company on my own. I started an appraisal company, so I do appraisals on the side for other contractors. So that's another big thing, though, because if I'm not the contractor, I can act as a third-party appraiser. If I'm the contractor, I can hire somebody as a third-party appraiser that I know to come do an appraisal for me to get an underpaid claim properly compensated. Are we still connected? I'll kind of hit on that appraisal process real quick.
No, I cannot see you. I can't see you.
You can?
Okay, I can see you now.
All right, so on the appraisal process, what I do with that, this is how it goes. So you have to tell the homeowner or the property owner to invoke appraisal, and they have to do it in writing. So they have to send an email or a letter or whatever invoking the appraisal process. And so when they invoke the appraisal process, they have to hire the third-party appraiser that's going to represent them. The insurance company has to hire a third-party appraiser to represent them. A lot of the times the insurance appraiser is an adjuster too, but they just happen to be an appraiser. We're all contractors doing the appraisal, so we're looking at it from a contractor standpoint, right? And so whenever those two third parties are hired, they're both unbiased parties. Neither one of them gets paid based on the job size or whether it's approved or not. They get paid flat fees. I'm charging the homeowner, whatever I'm charging them. He's charging the insurance company, whatever he's charging them. We're going to come look at the damage. We're going to set up a time. We're going to meet together. We both walk the roof, walk the property. We look at everything together. We document it all. We both write our own estimate as well, separate from the contractor and the other adjusters. And then, or if if I'm the contractor, I'm having my appraisal buddy do the appraisal for me, and he's writing his estimate based on mine, maybe plus some, or whatever we talk about, whatever's there. They're writing it based on what they see. They're gonna take their own opinion and they're gonna put their estimate together, and then they're gonna swap estimates. They're gonna send each other their estimate. They're gonna review it, and if they can come to terms and go ahead and make an approval and an agreement off of that, then that's what they're gonna do. They can go ahead and kick out the award if they both agree that this is an okay number to settle at. If neither one of those appraisers can settle, if there's no settlement, then another third party called an umpire is hired. The umpire comes in, he looks at all sides and he mediates, and he or she, him or her, comes in and mediates, and they decide what the final award will be. Out of all the appraisals I've ever done, I've only ever had to have 2 umpires ever. And I've done probably at least 150 appraisals. Only ever had to have 2 umpires hired. We're always able to pretty much settle with the other appraisal company or appraiser. Typically, they agree with what we're saying. Typically. Sometimes they disagree with minor things, but for the most part, we're able to settle with the other appraisal companies. And that's where we get the homeowners from. Let's say they have a $1,200 claim and we can't get anywhere with the insurance company. Well, now we took that to $50,000 or $60,000. So third parties are beneficial, and it depends, on what state you're in. Yeah, here in Arkansas, we don't have public adjusters. We just have appraisals. So in other states, you might want to use a PA.
So I think that you have shared a lot of value to the people who might be listening or watching to this podcast. Now let's just come back to your life as well, because I think that is a source of learning too. And I have 2 or 3 more questions, and then we can wrap this up. I personally want to know something, that when you had your father killed in your childhood, how was that experience? And the reason I am asking you this is because you are someone, because I have my father alive, and I cannot advise someone who does not have a father, because I cannot feel his pain. But a lot of guys who I meet in roofing, they have the exact same story as you, because they are deprived of these relationships. You were a kid that grew without a father. Now, there are a lot of kids out there, or a lot of young men in roofing or women, they don't have a father too, and they might be making decisions that they shouldn't be making. But you have made those decisions already, and now you have the experience and you have the leverage as well. So what are the learnings that you have that you now want to pass on to the next generation, or to the people who are exactly in your shoes as a child?
Okay, that's a great thing to talk about. So for me, I would say one major thing that I learned going through the motions, from a young person, early, young adult to where I'm at now, is you should always operate on intellect over emotion. As a man or even as a woman, and we could say whatever we want about emotions, but everybody gets emotional. Men and women get emotional, let's face it. There's emotions that come up in life, whether it's sad, happy, mad, and how we deal with those things can really either help us or hinder us, and if you act too quickly off of emotion, whether it be, super positive, sometimes people get super happy and go do dumb stuff, but usually it's sadness and anger that cause people to do, the worst things that they do. And so what I'm saying is, I think if you'll just slow down in life, a lot of times we beat ourselves up based on where we're at. But where we're at isn't where we're going. And as long as we don't allow ourselves to stay stuck there, we can't beat ourselves up on it. So stay focused, stay sharp, always be willing to listen and learn. If you don't have a father figure, find a mentor. It's definitely a big deal. If you're in a smaller town or something, I'm sure there's a gym or something, there's somebody out there that you can hang with that will lift you up, and you can lift them up too. And just think before you act. A big part of the things that I did that got me in trouble and and the bad decisions I made were based off of emotion. That's why I'm saying intellect over emotion, because still I'm faced with challenges. They say, whenever you intend to do something, disruption follows intention, right? So whenever you set your intentions in life and you're chasing a goal, there's always inevitably going to be something or someone that gets in your path and tries to knock you off course. It's just part of it. That doesn't mean you're not in the right place. That means you're in the right place, and you got to keep pushing, and don't let your emotions based on whatever those obstacles are detour you. Because if you get too emotional and you make decisions based on that, you can detour yourself. So stay focused on the mission. Know that disruption follows intention. Stay intentional, stay on the path. Don't let any of those emotions knock you off course, whether it's spouses, friends, family, business partners. Keep a level head, stay calm and cool. Think things through. They say play out the tape. Don't act on emotion. Think it through and then make your decision. That's all I got for you on that.
And speaking of emotions, Michael, I feel that, yeah, and I think that, like, if we are kids, when we are kids, we are looking at ourselves only. Like, if I lose my father, I will have a pain that I don't have a father. But if I look at my mother, she lost her husband too, and now she has to raise the kids. I am just looking at myself. And what I picked from you is that when we are emotional, we are just looking at our pain. Once we start looking at the pain that others have and we put ourselves into their shoes, I think that is when we start to realize that, okay, hold on, I have my traumas, I have my stuff, but I cannot whine about that, and I cannot use that to make bad decisions. I have to be responsible, and I have to look for others too, because now our generation talks a lot about traumas and everything. But if we look at our parents, they had immense pain, yet they had never any breakdown. Even you, I can bet that as a parent, as a father, you have immense pain and responsibility and care for your kids. That does not allow you to be in any trauma, and that just demands from you to show up every single day and put all these things aside and put them before you.
You couldn't have said that any better, man. You said it better than me. For sure. It's a big deal.
Okay, thank you.
Spiritual journey, man. It's a spiritual journey.
Yes, it is. Obviously. Okay, so my second last question to you is, Michael, that how do you want to raise your kids now? Because you have gone through this life and you have made all kind of choices. What are the learnings from that part that helps you in shaping up your kids' life or making decisions for them? If you can hear me, because I am having a background noise.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so for me and my kids, a big thing that I've done, and people can raise their kids however they want to, but I was raised where, respect's a big deal, but I was also raised openly. Like, we traveled a lot. My parents didn't really shelter me from much. They let me kind of see stuff and they explained it to me. They made it make sense. My dad was really, really a blunt guy, really direct. He would tell you like it was, and he wasn't sugarcoating it at all. And for me, I think that was good, and I hate that I lost him at a young age because, obviously I'd still be loving to have talks with him now and getting, more wisdom from him now. But I still think I get wisdom from him spiritually somehow, and I try to give my kids that same type of energy he gave me. I try to give them like a firm foundation, but also have kind of a loving, fun, we laugh and, joke and, that type of, where you can feel welcome and feel like you're meant to be here. I don't want my kids to ever feel like they're out of place at home. That's one of my biggest things. I want them to always feel comfortable and secure and know that, we've got them. But as far as teaching them, I want them to understand humility. I want them to understand, what it's like to respect people in all walks of life and where they come from and their religions and their beliefs. But I also want them to stand firm in theirs and ours. I want them to be secure in their own beliefs and not be influenced by other people. I want them to be able to lead the way, basically. I want them to be leaders. That's kind of my biggest thing. I don't want them to be sheeple. I want them to lead the packs. I want them to lead the masses. I want them to lift people up. I want them to be positive in everybody that they walk in front of's light. I want them to be people that make people smile, but also want them to be firm and stand on what they believe in and be willing to fight for it. I want them to be strong young men.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I believe that once God takes something from you or a person, like he took your dad, I think that God loves you more than anyone. And he knows that I have to make a life for Michael and these things are necessary. And God has just great plans. We cannot even describe that. And thank you for sharing everything with me. It was a really nice conversation with you, Michael. My last question to you is, let's just say if you are sitting down with your younger self now, what are the things that you would ask the young Michael to put in the priority list, and what are the things you would ask him to worry less about, and what are the things you would ask him to completely ignore?
I would definitely tell him to completely ignore other people's opinions. That's for sure. You know, because when I first started in this, I had a lot of people doubting me. A lot of people said that I dressed funny, I talked funny, I would never sell, you know, this and that. And, you know, I've outshined the majority of those people that doubted me. So I would definitely say just block out the doubters, let them talk and screw them, basically. That's one thing I'd say. And then as far as what was the other question that you asked me about it?
Oh,
About
yes,
like you
yes.
said,
I asked that yes, what will be you asking him to ignore, and will you ask him to put on the priority list, and what would you ask him to worry less about?
so to ignore, like I said, ignore the haters and the doubters because their opinions don't matter. Put on the priority list, I would say probably a little bit more family time. You know, early on, I just kind of started reeling it in and getting a little bit more, you can say balance. I mean, balance is kind of a joke, but I've been spending more time with my family here lately, whereas before I made work kind of more of the priority, you know, and now I'm kind of learning how to make family priority while still having a high level of work, you know, load. So that was a hard thing for me before. I would get frustrated, you know, because the family, they get frustrated when you're gone all the time, you know, and I'm thinking in my mind, I'm just doing this for us. But at the same time, a lot of the time they just need you here. You know what I'm saying? So I've
Yes.
lately been making more time for family. I would have tell my younger self, you know, spend more time with my older son. He didn't get as much time from me as my youngest does. So I would, going back, I'd say that, you know, hopefully it hasn't done anything negative to him. I mean, we really still are tight, you know, we've spent a lot of time, but I think younger days I should have spent more time with him and not focused so much on work, but I was trying to build us, you know, build our family. But as far as stress, I would say stress less about the same thing. People hating and doubt, man. You know, before it stressed me out. Like I would question myself whether or not I was supposed to be in the position I was in and whether or not I was doing the right thing and whether or not I was going to be successful doing it. But again, that was the things trying to knock me off course once I'd stayed to my intention. So once I made my intention, that was the disruption, was all those doubters and haters. You know what I mean? And now I'm here,
Thank you.
so.
Thank you for all of that wisdom. Yes. And I do respect you a lot, by the way, because I just have immense respect for you by hearing all of that, your journey. Any signing off notes or advice you have in particular for the roofing community?
Man, y'all keep crushing it. Don't let this economy hold you back, man. Just go out there and solve problems and build relationships, and through that, you'll get paid and have success.
Thank you so much for your time, Michael. I hope you enjoy your vacation and have an amazing remaining half of 2025. Stay blessed, and may God bless you with much more. Thank you for your time.
But thank you for having me, man. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you too, player. Bye bye.